Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Red Sky Pod's weekend preview. We'll be discussing Liverpool versus Aston Villa, and we'll be looking, skipping over some of the other games that may affect us in the league. So, first of all, I want to welcome one of the Red Sky stalwarts. Good evening, Steve.
I thought you were going to say Jay then. Good evening, mate. How are you?
Well, welcome, Jay. Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be back, guys.
Thanks
for having me on.
Red Sky debut, Zane. Evening, Zane.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
Not a problem. Right, so Steve, I'll come to you first. The results are midweek. How big has that made the game tomorrow against Aston Villa, or has it changed it at all, if any?
Well, it's changed it. I think we were all a little bit overconfident going into the Real Madrid game because of injuries and personnel missing on their part. But tactically, it was just all wrong. I think we all recognise that. Makes the game against Villa even bigger because we now need to look more at accruing league points rather than trying to get through the back door, so to speak, of winning the Champions League. That's an uphill task on it next week, by the way. I think we'll struggle there. I fancy Madrid to score, so we'll probably need to score more than twice. In terms of the Villa game, well, revenge is the wrong word, but we do have a fixture early in the season to motivate ourselves. No Jack Grealish, which is a positive. He's again been ruled out today, so that's only good for Liverpool. I think without Jack Grealish, their goals against Fulham were their only goals in like 4,000 minutes of league football. So they're not particularly sharp in front of goal, but then neither are we. So if a 0-0's on the cards, this is probably the fixture that's going to bring that. But we need it. We need to win it because we need to build momentum for the game against Real Madrid. And we talk about momentum all the time. Momentum is massive. You have to go into games like that with a happy camp. And the way to get a happy camp is to register three points on the board and do it well.
Zane, Steve mentioned a word there called revenge. How much do you think will be on the lads' minds tomorrow when it comes to revenge?
I'm not sure, to be fair, because when we were playing Everton the second time, I thought it would be on their heads, taking into account how we played the last game and what happened with Van Dijk and Thiago. But we didn't play really well, and with Madrid, the same thing happened. So I think they shouldn't be thinking about it too much and just go and get the 3 points and not think about what happened in the past.
Jay, tomorrow, do you see many team changes? Do you see many changes in our lineup tomorrow, or do you think it'll be as strong as possible?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think we were shocked to see the inclusion of Naby Keita in the Madrid game, based on how well we'd played in the Arsenal game. To then make that change in a crucial game. So it wouldn't surprise me if Klopp had one eye on trying to nick something at Anfield against Madrid. If you're asking me personally, if I would make changes, that would be a no. I think we need to go out into the Aston Villa game as strong as possible in order to take 3 points. I think Steve's right. You know, it's going to be a tall order for us to potentially score more than twice against Madrid, because I think they'll score as well. I don't think the problem is us getting the goals. I think the problem is us keeping them out. So we need to get that momentum from the Villa game and build the momentum and build the excitement and euphoria around the Madrid game in order to put on the best possible display we can. So I'd go all guns blazing at Villa, and I'd go all guns blazing against Madrid as well.
What would your midfield three be tomorrow, Steve?
The midfield three that finished in midweek. I know there's a lot of criticism for Gini Wijnaldum being banded around at the moment, but he's arguably the strongest and fittest centre midfielder we've got, most mobile in terms of recycling the ball and doing the things he's been doing all season. We've talked many times, Ian, that Hendo and Gini do specialist roles, that you have to have a certain physical attributes, a certain strength, a certain level of fitness and a certain awareness. It would be foolish to lose both of those specialist roles for me. If you keep one, you keep a degree of control on that side of the pitch. I don't think Gini was by any means the worst player of the night. By the way, I don't think anybody comes out of the fixture of the night with any credibility at all. I thought tactically it was poor, intensity-wise it was poor, a willingness to dig in, which we've seen quite a lot this season. I don't see the putting up too much of a fight in midweek. I thought it was too easy for Real Madrid. I thought they bullied us all over the pitch. And at times, you look at Real Madrid and think they had more than 11 players on the pitch because they wanted it more. And in the first 40 minutes with Keita playing, we surrendered the match to them, absolutely surrendered the game to them. So I'd like to see Thiago play, I'd like to see Fabinho play, I'd like to see Gini play. I understand the clamour for Milner, but as you quite rightly pointed out, Milner's playing on the stretch quite a lot at the moment because Father Time scores up with him. And I know Curtis Jones has had a knock, and there's also the situation with his behaviour on international duty. So I don't see him being brought back in for a game like that. So I can imagine that he's going to go with the three that finish the game. Keita won't be anywhere near it, mate.
Would you stick with the normal back four, Zane? Would you stick, or would you be tempted? I've seen people talking about bringing Tsimikas in.
Yeah, I'm one of those people who would love to see how Tsimikas looks because I think Robbo is really, really tired because he's been playing non-stop for both Liverpool and Scotland, and we just don't see the same intensity. We don't see. I know that since we have the two relatively new centre backs, he has to play in defence more and cannot go and attack as much as he usually does. But I think he deserves a bit of a rest, even if it means maybe playing the first 45 minutes or the second 45 minutes. But it will be interesting to see Tsimikas. But for the rest, yeah, I think the same.
Do you think Robbo's form's been affected by Mane's form, Jay?
I don't think Mane's form has affected Robbo. I think, like me and Steve and yourself discussed on many occasions, when you was a fullback, whether it be Trent or Robbo, look over your shoulder and you see Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez with the amount of pace which they can bring as well. That gives you the license to play further up the pitch. That gives you the license to run at defences and not feel you're having to constantly, keep an eye on a young centre-back pairing. I think that's what shackled Trent and Robbo this year. Mane's form has been indifferent. We've seen glimpses of the Mane we know, and then we've seen glimpses of, oh my God, what's going on? To be honest, I just think it's a temporary thing. I reckon the whole team is tired. Like Zane said, we've been consistent for 4 years now. People say it's only been 2 years. It's 4 years we've been consistent, and that's consistent in the style of football that we've been playing. Obviously, in the early days, the results didn't follow, but we still had that high intensity, that high pressure game, that high press where the whole team is full throttle for 90 minutes. And that's going to be difficult to keep up for 4 years consistent. So, do I want to see Tsimikas come in? I know you touched on it before. I just don't think he's the man for this occasion. We're in the business end of the season. It's at this point where players dig in and their games raise, and this is where we go and get points. We're in the mix for top 4. Do we start making changes and potentially cost us a top 4 position? Because I feel Chelsea have taken their eyes off the ball in the Premier League. I really, really do. And Chelsea are there for the taking. So we've got to be consistent going forward.
Good time on that, Steve, because guess what the question was? I was just about to ask you, what would your front three be tomorrow, Steve?
I'd agree with the comment. I think you need to take Sadio out for a while. To send him a message that it's sounds weird to say this, but it's not okay to put in performances like we saw midweek. It's not. It really isn't. I know he's been forcing the issue and trying too hard, and that with that comes the pitfalls of not being relaxed, because that's the last thing you say to any team going out to play at any standard of any sport. Relax, because if you're relaxed, you do what you do naturally. If you're not relaxed and you're forcing things, he couldn't travel a bag of cement at the moment, and that's the problem. With the ball's coming out of the sky, look at the Bayern Munich game in the Champions League a couple of years ago when Van Dijk launched the long ball to him. the movement, the touch, the control, and the shape of his body was as good as you'll see anywhere ever in world football. He hasn't got that in him at the moment. He's tense. So when the ball touches him, it bounces off him. He's been infected massively by the fact that the three-man triangle with Robert, Gini and himself hasn't been there, because we've lived in fear of our back two, our central defenders, for most of this season. So I have some sympathy for all of the guys that are getting dug out by the media at the moment. But what people need to understand is, when you lose players of the ability of a Van Dijk or a Gomez, and then you lose Matip as well, who stands up against Gomez, definitely in terms of his ability, you break everything that we do, because every man in our system has a specific job to do, and they know that specific job, and they don't do anything else. That makes us really, really fragile in situations like this. We've seen that this season. But with regards to Sadio's position, is everything in the team hasn't worked. The only thing in the team that's remained consistent and has worked is that Salah's still scoring goals. You can look at every other position on the pitch and you can find room to criticise. But if you follow that backwards to find the origination of the criticism, comes down to the fact is, since Gomez got injured, we're not playing with a system. We're playing off the cuff football. And that's why Klopp's not animated on the touchline, and that doesn't work for Liverpool.
Zane, would you stick with the two centre-backs that we've got, or do you think at some point Ben Davies will get a run out?
Oh, I think Ben Davies won't play this season. I think we will keep playing Phillips and back, because they have formed some sort of partnership, and we need the stability we didn't get for the most of the season. So I think we will keep sticking with Phillips and Kabak.
Perfect. Right, Jay, so we're not going to ask for the score. We're just going to ask you, do Liverpool get the 3 points tomorrow?
If we go there at Anfield, we're at home. If we dominate at home like we know we can, and I'm not expecting us to be the Liverpool of old. I'm expecting for us to have more ball than Villa, and for us to be clinical. Yeah. Then the result's not going to be in doubt. But if we go there and we turn up like we turned up against Madrid, and we feel inferior, and we allow Trezeguet to boss the midfield, we allow Watkins to run at Kovac and Phillips. We allow McGinn to start, dictating in the middle of the park. We're going to come unstuck. It's all going to be about retaining the ball, punching the ball through the lines, because Villa do play high press football. If we can punch the ball through the lines and get the ball into our front three and move the ball quickly, we're gonna catch them and we'll get the result. That's all it's going to come down to. Tempo is everything. Tempo, and we didn't have it in Madrid. We didn't have the tempo.
Similar question to you, Steve, but with something else tagged along. Do we get the win tomorrow? And does it concern you that we're looking at the likes of Grealish not being involved for us to take points against Aston Villa?
Well, it's actually a sign of the times where we're at right now. You have to look at weakening your opposition. The first thing we all did when Varane got COVID was take to Twitter and tell everybody, because it was a flaw in our opposition. When you're in the wretched form that Liverpool are in, and it is wretched, especially at home at the moment, you need every little bit you can get to help. Every little thing that is a positive for you and a negative for your opponents. Jack Grealish is a talented footballer. But I personally feel he's a number 10 waiting to happen. Playing on the left side at Villa, he would have been tasked to jet Trent, because every game we play from now until Kingdom Come, every manager is going to be saying to their left side of the team, that's your angle, that's where you go down the left-hand side. It's a little unfair. Bring Henderson back in, because this isn't Trent goes away, because Henderson does so much to cover the gaps. We had this conversation last night on Bits and Bob's pod that, Trent got blamed for the goals in Madrid, the first 2 goals. Absolutely not his fault. The starting position of his centre-backs absolutely killed us on both of those goals. Trent's got to play that ball. So back to your question, mate. Do Liverpool get the results? I agree with Jay. Without tempo, no. If there's tempo and intensity, I completely agree. Then we'll get the results if we can play with the intensity and the tempo. And we absolutely should be looking at the fact that Grealish is missing, because Manchester City would look at the fact that Grealish is missing because he's one of the top playmakers and creative players in the league that can hurt anybody. And it doesn't matter if you've got injury or you've got no centre backs. Jack Grealish is a talented footballer and has the ability to hurt everybody.
And finally, to you, Zane, before we go on to the rest of the weekend's games, do you think we get the 3 points tomorrow? And if we do, where do we win the game? Who's our most important players tomorrow?
I think we do. I'm quite confident that we will. It probably won't be by many goals, but might be 2-1 or 2-0 or something like that. I think midfield is going to be very important because in the Madrid game, I again didn't see what I did in the games before where Fabinho or our other midfielders would win the ball back quickly and in our half, which didn't happen in Madrid. So if we do this against Villa, I think that then we have a big chance because that's how we used to play and that's how we used to win games, when we don't give the opponent a chance to even go in an attack. So I think midfield will be the most important part.
Right, so let's have a look at the rest of the weekend's game then. We'll look closely at the ones who affect Liverpool. So first of all, let's have a look at Chelsea away to Crystal Palace. So Steve, is that one potentially that could go in our favour?
No, I don't think so. I think of all of the fixtures midweek in the Champions League, Chelsea are probably the closest to being over the line. You don't have to particularly look at the weekend game to protect anybody or shield anybody, or have one eye on midweek. I don't see Porto beating Chelsea by 3 goals. Don't think they offer enough. They play nice football around the edge of the box, and then it went nowhere. I think Chelsea will score against Porto as well. So I think that's probably the tie of the round because of the no away goal. It's pretty much done and dusted. So I think Chelsea can afford to go out and play a very strong side and keep their momentum and their tempo and their rhythm going for their midweek game. So no, I don't see Palace troubling Chelsea.
How about you, Zane? Could you see our old friend Roy Hodgson getting the result for us against Chelsea?
I have a feeling that it will be a draw because Chelsea's performances, they are not really consistent. They started to be consistent when a new manager started, but I think the game against West Brom kind of kicked their confidence. And Crystal Palace, they played quite well against Everton, if I remember correctly, as that's their last game. So I kind of had a feeling that it will be a draw.
And how about you, Jay? Do you think that's one that could go in our favour?
Certainly. As I said, I feel like Chelsea have switched off in regards to the league at the moment, and they've got full focus on the Champions League. I also feel that the new manager bounce is now starting to come to an end for Chelsea, and they were made to work extremely hard against West Bromwich Albion. Let's not forget they didn't go down to 10 men until very sort of late on. So they were made to work quite hard by West Brom. I agree with Zane. I think there's a draw written all over that, solely because they may go into the game and field a slightly weakened side, only to protect the result against Porto. I think they've got one eye on that Champions League. Tuchel, he craves a Champions League trophy. He got so close with PSG. He didn't come as close with Dortmund, although he won the Deutsche Pokal with Dortmund, wasn't able to win a league title. So for him to kind of cement that he is at the elite table with your Peps, your Klopps, your Ancelottis of this world, those kind of caliber of manager, he's got to win something. So he's got one eye on that Champions League, and Chelsea know that if they win the Champions League, they've almost got double jeopardy, so to speak. If they win the Champions League, they qualify automatically next season. If they obviously finish 4th in the league, they qualify. So they've got kind of 2 bites at the cherry here. So which way is he going to roll the dice? Which way is he going to gamble? And I think he's hedging his bets on the Champions League. So the midweek picture got all over it for me.
Fair enough, guys. Fair enough. So the next one I want to look at is probably the big one. regarding our rivals for top four is West Ham versus Leicester. How do you see that one going, Jay?
Massive game. I mean, Mikel Antonio is now out for the rest of the season, so that's a big loss for West Ham. Late fitness check on Jesse Lingard as well, because he basically had a bit of fatigue during the last game. He pulled up a couple of times. So if he's not playing, that's a huge miss for West Ham. I think in regards to Leicester have an opportunity in that game to cement their top four position. If they win that game, I can't see them dropping out of the top four. If they lose the game, it becomes incredibly interesting. You know, Klopp mentioned this mini league that's unfolding around the teams, and everybody's going to take points of each other. You know, West Ham have some danger men in the middle of the park. David Moyes almost recreated his ideal midfielder, like the second coming of Marian Fellaini in Surchek, because he's been an outstanding signing from Slavia Prague. We can't deny that. But are West Ham going to have the quality, with Declan Rice being out as well, to go into that game, hold off a resilient Leicester, the talent and the scoring goals over the pitch? It remains to be seen. I wouldn't want to try and nail my colours to the mast on a result on that one, to be honest.
Zane, who would you like to see win? Or what result would you like to see between West Ham and Leicester? Which one do you think benefits Liverpool more?
I think Leicester win, probably, because I really think that it would benefit us if West Ham start to drop points, because all of us were kind of anticipating that it will happen, but there are 8 games to go and it really hasn't happened. They're still up there. So I think the best would be if West Ham loses, and I believe that Leicester will win that game.
Same question to you, Steve. How do you think it'll go tomorrow? And who would you prefer to win out of West Ham and Leicester?
I was expecting Jay to say that Lingard had pulled his hamstring on TikTok or something, mate. So that's why. Because he does love his social goals, yes, he doesn't he? I think a draw suits Liverpool, because if Leicester win, I think they cement their top 3 space, never mind their top 4. I think it's better to be playing for third and fourth and be in the mix for third and fourth than to sort of have City over the hill and gone, as we all know. Manchester United in the box seat for second place. And if Leicester win, they really take a quantum leap into third place, and it'll be very difficult to catch them. If they draw and we win, we make 2 points up on both of them, and that could only be a good thing for Liverpool Football Club, mate.
Right, our other game I wanted to look at was Spurs versus Manchester United. How do you think that one goes, Steve?
Wow, that's a difficult one to call, because Man United and Mourinho thinks he's got something to prove there, so we will prepare the Spurs side well for that. Which Manchester United turns up? The team that beat a TV station 2-0 the other day, Granada, or a really strong performance by United. Again, United was in a position to sort of cement their position in the league. If results go against the other teams and they win their game, they could be as much as 7 points clear in third place. At this stage in the season, given what Klopp said, which is quite right, people will take points of each other. That could be as good as done, and they'll know this. They'll know that. They'll be well focused for that. Which Spurs is going to turn up? The one that takes to social media and slag off, or the one that puts in a performance? You really can't tell. It's what you call a Jekyll and Hyde game, because nobody has any idea what either of those teams are going to turn up and do on the day. It would be very like them just to play out a pretty boring 1-1 draw. Bruno's goals, apart from penalties, have dried up. So we'll see. I can see that being a draw.
Same question to you, Zane. How do you see Spurs versus Manchester United going?
I think it has a boring draw written all over it, because Spurs, we know how Spurs play and we know how Manchester play against top 6 teams. So even though it is Mourinho's previous team, I think it is going to be a boring draw, 0-0 or 1-1, I think.
Same question to you, Jay. How do you see that game going? the Mourinho derby?
It's only going one way. It's got drawing all over it. Mourinho will set up to frustrate Manchester United. Manchester United will dominate the ball, but ultimately they'll encounter a resolute Spurs side who are going to defend with their lives, and hoping that they can catch United on the counter attack, because United are susceptible to counter attacks. Let's be honest. They don't exactly have mobility in the two centre backs position, and Harry Kane is going to relish playing up against those two centre backs, dropping in deep to receive the ball and playing in his wide players, and then arriving late in the box and getting on the end of things. We know he can do it, but it's whether Spurs can deliver that one sucker punch. That's all they'll wait for. They'll wait for that one opportunity to deliver a sucker punch. And that's Mourinho football at the best. But you can imagine the antics, the ball getting kicked away, the time wasting, the getting in the referee's ear, the winding up of the players. It's going to be one to watch. But ultimately, do Spurs have enough to stop United from scoring? And I think they have enough to potentially nick a goal. So, like Zane and like Steve said, it's a 0-0 or it's a 1-0, to be honest.
And the last game, which I think affects us, correct me if I'm wrong afterwards, is Brighton versus Everton. So, Jay, what's happening here?
Brighton play them off the park. Brighton play them off the park. I mean, Brighton's football, I've likened Brighton to a mini Manchester City. The football, if you break it down, is so technical. They're playing some good stuff. They really, really are. I mean, the ball goes into the midfield. It comes out in the midfield again into the back four. It goes out wide. They pop it back in again if the option's not there. They'll put it back out wide again. They're just so comfortable in possession. You got Ben White bringing the ball out. You got Dunk bringing the ball out. You know, they can hit the long ball if they need to get them in play up top. I reckon Brighton have too much for them, but you can't ignore the fact that Everton have got their tails up. They're almost playing with a little bit of swagger, I have to say, which is unusual from an Everton side. We haven't seen this since the Moyes kind of era when they did qualify for European football under David Moyes. They haven't played with that kind of swagger or that kind of self-belief for a long, long time. But I put my money on Brighton to do the business. You know, is it not Knockout? Who's the chap that's been linked with us?
Basuma.
At some point. Sorry?
Basuma. Yeah.
Yeah, Basuma. If he plays, he dictates the midfield. He runs right in there. I don't think Decore has enough in him. I think he's far more intelligent than Decore. In order to get hold of that midfield battle. And if he does, big problems for Everton. Big problems for Everton.
How do you see Brighton versus Everton going, Zane?
I think I agree. I'm all for Brighton to win. I think they've been playing fantastic football, but they've just been really, really unlucky. And with Everton, I think they are in a bit of a bad place right now. I think they lost 2 or 3 games in a row. So they seem to get it, and then at the end they just bottle it. So I think it's also a very, very important game for Brighton in terms of staying in the league. So I think they'll just try everything they can to win this game, and I think it's going to go their way.
And finally, Steve, how do you think Brighton versus Everton goes?
I think they'll both score. I think there'll be plenty of goals. Brighton is a side you would expect Calvert-Lewin to score against, just despite the fact that they've got big centre halves. They don't deal with that side of things particularly well. I don't like Richarlison for obvious reasons, but he will enjoy playing against centre backs at Brighton because he's mobile, and you could accuse them guys of being that. But in the other half of the pitch, Brighton are playing with some really interesting angles and a really interesting football concept. As Jay says, you know, there's not many teams that play patterns of play and technical play as well as they do, or try it as often as they do. From the position they're in the league, it's really brave because you look at the other teams, they would go with brute strength over guile and ability. Brighton don't. They stick to their footballing principles, and I admire that. I think 3-2 either way. I can't pick a winner. I think there'll be goals in that game. I can't pick a winner. I've struggled to pick a side to come out from that because Brighton are really strong. But when Everton are at it, when Everton come to the game and turn up, they're a decent side, as much as I hate to say it. They really are. I mean, Calvert-Lewin, they've got a guy in form that in terms of a standing jump in the box, doesn't get beaten by anybody at the moment. So 3-2, one way or another.
And I think that ends our roundup of the weekend's fixtures that affect Liverpool. So, Steve, do you want to tell people where they can find you on the Twitterverse?
Yeah, so there you go on my socials there at Steve Plug or Red Sky Pods. And also, you can see me on Eyes on the Ball TV on a Wednesday night. I really enjoy that. Just on the panel there, don't do any hosting, but if you've got an hour free on a Wednesday night later on, that's a really good crack. So have a look at that too.
And Zane, where can people find you? Do you want to follow you and watch you on YouTube and whatnot?
Yes, so on Twitter and YouTube, you can find me as like here or here, as Talk Sports. Yeah, just it's mainly Liverpool content. So all my YouTube videos are mainly about Liverpool and match reviews, match previews, what's going on in the team and stuff like that. So yeah, if you like it, subscribe, and there's definitely more to come in the future.
And same to you, Jay. Where can people find you, and what programs and YouTube content can they find you on?
So same place as always. So you've got my socials just there. At Tiago's589. Also catch me on the Red Sea Pod via Never a Foul, and also with you guys on at the Red Sky. So yeah, you can see me on it. Also, as I've always say, I'm a football fan first before I'm a Liverpool fan. Obviously, I love the club, but if any other teams want to collab, I'm happy to do that as well. I'm happy to reach out and just talk general football at all levels with any fans. It doesn't bother me, you know. Bundesliga, La Liga, you know, I'll do the lot.
Well, thank you very much, guys. And don't forget, if you've been watching, you've liked what you've seen, follow at Red Sky Pods, where we do match previews, match reviews. We've got a series called Red Sky Meets, where this week we met Northwest football royalty, Elton Wellesby. So go get on that. It was a fantastic watch. And I'll see you next week for next week's weekend preview.